Hot hatches seem to be a dime a dozen these days. Earlier in the show, we drove Peugeot's latest pocket rocket, the 208 GTI, but one of its closest rivals is another new arrival, the Ford Fiesta ST. The Ford brand and motorsport have been synonymous for a very long time. I don't think it stretches as far back as the original Model T, but the association is certainly an extended and illustrious one that covers almost every facet of motorsport, from Formula One to endurance racing, from rallying to off-road. That link with motorsport also extends to its production cars and specifically to the ST badged models. The latest member of that clan is the highly anticipated Fiesta ST. At first, Ford was adamant that there would be no ST-badged performance version of the latest Fiesta, but the popularity of the original and the fact that the Fiesta became the Blue Oval's weapon of choice in the World Rally Championship always seemed to suggest otherwise. And so it came as no surprise that the ST badge has finally found its way onto the feisty hatchback's rump. The only question is why it took Ford so long. The ST reflects the latest cosmetic changes of the entire Fiesta range, which means it gets the same ugly, gaping grille, which is more guppy than yuppie. But the rest of the car is handsome enough, compact and poised, and I particularly like the 3 doors silhouette. The key distinguishing features are the honeycomb effect of the grille, the full body kit, the bigger wheels, and that lower, more aggressive stance. It's easy to forget that the Fiesta is a lot smaller than a Focus or a Golf. The proportions are just right, with a sense of cohesion and alacrity created by the wheels planted at each corner, the steep rake of the windscreen, the deep front air dam, and the way the roofline extends into a substantial spoiler. This latest ST has 20% more power than its predecessor thanks to this engine, a 1600cc EcoBoost engine that uses turbocharging, direct injection and variable valve timing to produce 134 kilowatts of maximum power linked to 240 newton meters of torque. Power to the wheels via a 6-speed manual gearbox. The big question is if the urge on offer is enough to give the Fiesta a fighting chance for the top spot in the pocket rocket battle. And unfortunately, there's no easy answer. It lacks the outright grunt of the power class leaders, but muscle is not the only parameter to consider. What I can tell you is that the Fiesta is a sharp little beast. The steering may be electrically assisted, but once you start slicing your way through a mountain pass with some momentum, there's good feedback and precision on offer. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with the cabin of the ST. On the upside, I really like these Recaro seats. They're supportive, they're comfortable, and I also like the driving position, which is very much driver-focused. But on the downside, this mess of switches and buttons around the entertainment system is an ergonomic nightmare. Augmenting the Fiesta's driving office is a list of luxury and convenience kit that seems almost incongruous in the fast and furious context. Keyless entry and starting, climate control, cruise control, multifunction steering wheel controls, Bluetooth connectivity, a trip computer, and more. But the cabin also has its shortcomings. Access to the rear is compromised by those very seats I like so much, even though they slide all the way forward. They're just too bulky. Rear accommodation is adequate for a subcompact, and the same goes for the deep but narrow boot. The Fiesta ST feels every bit as agile and quick as it looks. It doesn't quite have the same amount of power as the Peugeot 208 GTI, but it makes up for that with a tauter and sportier setup, and it's certainly no slouch in straight line terms. The 0 to 100 times 6.9 seconds, top speed 220 kilometers an hour. There's an intensity, a purposefulness to the way the ST goes about its pocket rocket business that adds a welcome edge, a keenness to the driving experience. The boosted engine spins into the rev limiter all too easily, and it pulls strongly across the entire rev band. The result is a car that feels faster and more boisterous than it really is, while completely engaging the driver. The taut and athletic personality of the ST is spot on given its young and enthusiast target market. Changes to the chassis mainly around the suspension with thick anti-roll bars, stiffer springs and recalibrated dampers. Also the steering, which is a lot more precise than the standard version. And this car has a clever torque vectoring system, which means that it has a lot less understeer than you'd expect for a car with front-wheel drive and this kind of power. While it may feel just a little too stiff in the ride department, it's also true that the Fiesta ST's primary target market wants to experience every motoring moment in all its Technicolor glory. The ST is only too happy to comply, but over big bumps and through sharp dips, that may lead to temporary suspension overload. It's easy to understand why the new Fiesta ST has been such an eagerly awaited car. It's much more focused than its predecessor, with a particular emphasis on chassis dynamics and an uncompromisingly sporty personality. It's also sophisticated with a long list of standard features, and in that context, the asking price is attractive too. But this is a very competitive segment, and it's going to get a lot of competition from newcomers like the Peugeot 208 GTI and the upcoming and previous class leader, the Renault Clio RS. The Fiesta's zesty turbo engine and a taut, finely tuned chassis ensure exceptional driver appeal, while plenty of grip and decent steering feel add to the fun. Superb Recaro seats and ample standard kit are further plus points, but the stiff setup makes for a torrid ride on poor surfaces and ultimately compromises composure.